Hello everyone, welcome to episode 2 of JitsChat. I'm Dave, your Jiu-Jitsu uncle, and for this episode I would like to explore the topic of choosing the right gym if you're just starting out. Now, this isn't a checklist, it's more of a self-reflection for you to be making a smart purchasing decision, for lack of a better term. But having said that, I would like to put a caveat that choosing a gym is not a life sentence. Life happens, so whether it's influenced by financial reasons, accessibility reasons, vibe, program, distance, whatever it might be, those are all valid reasons, but we'll cover that all in this video, hopefully. So we'll start it off by making certain assumptions, which I guess we have to start off with who are we talking about, right? So what I mean by that is it's obviously the conversation changes a bit if we're talking about choosing a gym for kids, for teenagers, for competitors, etc. So again, sticking to the spirit of this channel, we're talking about us middle-aged folks who have to work or at least spend a significant amount of time outside of the gym. So to get started, I would like to put the most obvious first. That will be most obvious and, in my opinion, most important, which is accessibility. A gym that is too far from either your house or your work or wherever your usual point A to point B travel is will be extremely challenging for you to maintain consistency in terms of attending. You'll most likely find a lot of reasons to not go, whether it's traffic, if you live in places where commuting is hell, or let's say you're in Singapore where commuting is pretty much as good as it gets, but if it's out of the way, you'll find a lot of reason to not go. So I would say that choosing a gym that is either, if you plan to train in the morning before going to work or replacing your lunch session, your lunch for training, then obviously picking a gym that is convenient to your workplace or school, let's say you're going back to school, will be a lot more important than choosing a place near your house for the most part, because you already covered most of the inconvenience and the time aspect of travel by going near somewhere that is close to your workplace. I think that's pretty straightforward, but don't discount that. I mean, getting access to a gym that is within walking distance to your workplace is such a huge benefit, because you can shower, you can grab a bite before or after training, and you still won't be late going to work. Conversely, if you're the type who likes to wake up really early, or you want to train after work, then pick a place that is probably closer to home, might be more beneficial if you have obligations at home at night, right? Or let's say you have to pick up the kids and then go home. Being able to go home first and then quickly travel 5, 10, 15 minutes to a gym will be very convenient, as opposed to training right after work and then you have to rush to pick up the kids, or whatever. That'll be a lot more difficult. So something for you to consider. So that one's pretty simple. That was pretty obvious. Number 2 would obviously be cost. Assuming that the cost parity between gyms in your area is low, meaning most of the jiu-jitsu gyms are within like 10-20% of each other. Then against the cost of, okay, I'm back. So again, cost. Okay, cost. Cost-wise, obviously, it depends on how often you'll get to use the gym. A lot of gyms, not just jiu-jitsu, but gyms in general, rely on the fact that a vast majority of people are paying for the membership that they'll never use. And the guys who actually use the gym often are the ones getting the most value out of it. So let's assume that you are in the second group. Pick a gym, obviously, that matches your median cadence of being able to attend. If you know that you're going to be able to attend twice a week only, then an unlimited pass rate may not be that enticing for you. So maybe you need to pick a gym that offers flexible passes, per use passes instead of like a flat rate type of gym. But if you're like me, who tries to attend as much as I can, borderline living in the gym, if I don't have any other thing to do, then getting an unlimited type of membership will be much, much better. So that's pretty straightforward, so I don't want to spend too much time on that. Just be sure that the value you're getting, you perhaps calculate it in a way where, how much are you getting per training session? How much are you paying per training session? Rather than just the outright amount of it, because it might be unlimited for $300, for example, but you're only going to use it 4 times in a month. That's a lot of money. So the next point would be facilities. While jiu-jitsu in general does not require a lot of facility, unlike a weightlifting gym, a Pilates gym of that sort, it's kind of like a yoga studio, right? Or a karate gym or something like that. All you need are mats, shower room, and water fountain. Essentially, from the most basic point of view, that's all you need. That's all you really need from the gym. But having said that, there are just way too many gyms that only invest in those things when it's new and have near zero maintenance, care, and sanitary considerations after. You don't want to put cleanliness and sanitation bottom of your list. I honestly would advise that. Again, you're not doing this to compete for once in 2 years or once in 4 years major comp. You're here as a hobbyist. You're here to get healthier and get better at something. Do not put sanitation and cleanliness anywhere below number 1 consideration when reviewing your gym options objectively. We're still talking about the observable physical aspects of getting into a gym. So we'll talk about the instructions and stuff like that later. But because you're a beginner, you wouldn't know what's good anyway from an instruction point of view. So I'm sticking to the basic ones first. Gyms, whether it's fitness, martial arts, but especially martial arts, especially grappling, is notorious. Martial arts is just a notorious cesspool of biohazard. The issue about getting skin infections, staph, athlete's foot, all those things are no joke. They're not just inconveniences. Staph, for example, is life-threatening. Right now it's July. Is it July? Yeah, it is July. July 2025. And you can kind of Google what happened to the wrestler and MMA athlete Van Askren, coming from a staph infection, collapsed lungs, etc. It is no joke, but unfortunately, most gyms do not take that seriously. Most gyms, especially if the gym has a lot of competitors and a lot of quote unquote like hardcore training guys, cleanliness is like way at the bottom of their priorities. They would train shirtless, they would train with skin infection, open wounds, all that stuff, and nobody will say anything, unfortunately. And they might be young enough that they they have a much higher tolerance against infection, or they just don't care. But that's not us. So take that very, very seriously. Ask, or at least observe, how often do they clean the mats, disinfect the mats. Um, you can usually see it if the mats are in tattered chip, for example. If the mats are in tattered chip, I don't really care how much the owners or operators claim they clean the mats. Gunk and crap will seep into the torn mats, the gaps between the mats, and all that stuff. No amount of Dettol is going to fix that. So mat condition is a very clear indicator of sanitation. You can also look at the bathroom, the shower room, for example, right? I know that a lot of gyms frown upon, or at least try their best to enforce that they're, you have to wear slippers going into the bathroom and all that stuff, and no mats on no shoes on the mats, etc. But it's extremely ironic that people would take their shoes off, for example, and then walk across even just like 2-3 meters of floor that people are allowed to use their shoes on. And then they step on the mat. What's the friggin' point? It's still the same thing. Can take a look at the bathrooms, like easily look into mold and those kind of stuff in the shower, between the tile grout and the walls and things like that. If they couldn't take care of that, I can guarantee you that they don't give a shit about the mats either. It's just a matter of time that somebody's going to get infected. Whether they will attribute that to the mat or not is a secondary issue, but you train long enough, you know when you see a bunch of guys with like very questionable skin conditions, lesions, and all that stuff, that you know they got it from training. So that's that. Sorry for the long rant. I just feel like that is such an important thing. And you'd be surprised in how many times people question why I voluntarily clean gym mats that I train in and I don't own or even teach or whatever. I'm just like a student there, but I'm more than okay cleaning the gym mats diligently. It's because of that. So we covered location, we covered costs, and then we covered cleanliness. Now we cover schedule, right? Again, super simple stuff. Find something that will fit your work and travel schedule. Just give yourself approximately at least 30 minutes post-training to kind of give your body time to cool down before you shower, because especially if you live in like a place like Singapore, any tropical country, humid country, taking a shower right after training does nothing. You're gonna sweat like a frigging soda can out of a fridge in a hot summer day within like 5 minutes, and you're gonna be soaking your work clothes within minutes. So give yourself some time to cool down before you take a shower, before you change. So training schedule-wise, again, just find something that fits your schedule, has enough training sessions for you to consider, particularly during your off periods, like your weekends and nighttime and things like that. So that's that. So we can close that out. What else? Vibes. I would say that before you sign up for trials and stuff, you just visit the gym, especially during those time slots that you want to train in, and see who's attending, right? Just take a peek from the outside, ask the gym if you can just observe what their class dynamic is, blah, 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 and see what the cohort of attendees are. You don't need the class to have like all old people. That's unlikely to happen. But if you're gonna get like a beginner's class and you see a lot of folks that are there, the class is being controlled and structured well in terms of safety, in terms of how the instructor communicates and things like that. Again, you don't have to know jiu-jitsu to observe those things. If you can see like, oh, this is supposed to be a beginner's class and it looks like Mortal Kombat right there. Trust me, you either have to be at that level and accept the consequences or the benefits, or you're going to be everyone's punching bag, or grappling dummy in this case. So spend some time and take a look into that before you even sign up for a trial class. Give it like 2-3 visits, 2-3 observation sessions. And yeah, and if you want, if you have the time, talk to the instructor who actually taught that class and see whether you vibe with him or her from an instruction and communication standpoint. So those are like the more generic stuff that I think is super helpful for almost anyone who has no experience in choosing a jiu-jitsu gym in the past. So now we talk about like what type of gym do you want to join? Like, does the affiliation matters? What does that even mean? Do you want to train in gi or no gi? Do you even know the difference? What is the gym or the program of the gym more focused on? Is it like competitive jiu-jitsu, self-defense, or traditional like following a program type? Is it a defensive school? Is it an offensive style school? Those kind of things. It's good to know, at least, even though you have no expertise or you have no viewpoint on what is better or what is not. Because why do I say that? Because, for example, if your perception of martial arts is I want to learn structure and things like that, usually gi gyms are more leaning towards that. But if you're looking at it from a more exercisey, if your inspiration to try jiu-jitsu is because of UFC or whatever, or MMA, then a no-gi gym might be better for you, just from an expectation point of view. Again, I have no preference. I love both. I actually like gi a lot, even though I'm training a purely no-gi gym. But that is very different when you've been training for a decade or so versus you're signing up for your first class. So give those a try. Give both a try by making sure that you get enough training trial sessions so you can make a decision. If the school offers both, then great. At least you can switch back and forth. I think most gyms will allow you to do that. But because you most likely are not going to be training in the quote-unquote popular classes, like early evenings and those kind of things, and you might be training in the 6:45 in the morning type of class. Usually they already have some sort of a structure or preference. Just give it a shot, right? And see which one you like more. Some reasons might be more practical. Like a lot of beginners, especially women that I've spoken to, even my wife was the same. As much as she likes grappling, she just dislikes this sweat, skin-to-skin aspect of no-gi, the slipperiness and all this stuff, that she would prefer to do gi. And I know a lot of people have that same sentiment as well, and that's totally fine. You don't have to argue with anybody about it. It's your preference. So if you have that kind of requirement, then you have to look for a gi school. Programs. Doesn't matter if you choose like a 10th Planet System, a CLA Jam, leg lock specialty gym, stand-up specialty gym. Honestly, I would say if you're new, the answer is no. You don't know what you don't know, and you don't know what you're capable of. As long as you fulfill the previous criteria that the gym offers you a safe space to train, the instructors are, let's say, qualified and competent. Sorry, competent is the right word. Competent to have a beginner's class. That means being aware of how to keep the students training safely. It doesn't matter. The styles, you'll pick and learn things based on what is being taught to you, and eventually you'll figure things out to your own advantage. So don't worry too much about that. From a vibe culture, I think this is something, unfortunately, I don't think you will be able to pick out until you've been with the gym for at least half a year or so. Is that how cliquey, how cult-like the gym is. And we're not talking about the cliche of having to bow and all that stuff. I came from traditional martial, so I'm actually okay with that if that's just how they run the school. What I'm not okay with would be things like, if you look at the vibe of the class and there's always like a group that don't interact with other people, maybe they're the competitive guys, or maybe they're the guys who are really close to the instructor, for example, and the rest of the folks are just like always trying to figure things out themselves in a little corner. Or if you actually see one or two guys who always end up sitting in a corner with nobody helping them out, nobody inviting them to a role, nobody picking them, to be partners. Those are huge red flags for me, because it's like grade school again. It's like going to primary school again. You don't want to deal with that. Yeah, you can be the good guy to invite the person and be the one who breaks the cycle, so to speak. But A, it's really not your job to do so, and B, you're actually going against the grain, and you'll eventually be part of that group that the clique group wouldn't like. So be wary of that. Again, unfortunately, as a newcomer, you probably wouldn't notice it, but if you notice that, it might be a good time to consider moving to another gym. And then the last point, as we're hitting close to the 30-minute mark, is the typical McDojo stuff, right? Ask them about what fees should you expect to pay. So some gyms might require you to pay for examination, for stripes. Stripes are promotion, like mini promotion criteria between belts, or the belts itself. Or they might require you to spend X amount of merch. The question really is it required or is it optional, right? I think we have to be fair that they are running a business. So as cheap as belts are, they still cost money. So it's fair for them to ask you to pay for the belt as part of the promotion thing, as long as it's reasonable, right? I mean, you can go online and get a belt on Amazon for like 10 to 20 bucks. But if they ask you for $100 for a belt, that's a bit sus, especially for tape, for stripes. Obviously, you don't ask them outright, like, oh, do I have to pay for my promotion, blah, blah, blah. Because they'll be like, what makes you think you're going to get promoted? So just ask them about the miscellaneous fees that you should expect. You can always say that, you're concerned because you might have, your budget is relatively limited, blah, 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 whatever. Just see if they're transparent about it. Uniforms, most of the time, they will, especially with gi gyms, they would usually offer you the school gym just out of one, convenience. You're already there, might as well get one. Two, obviously it gives them a little bit of income, but trust me, unless they're selling the gis at over 150, 200 Singapore dollars, they're not really making that much money off you, because you can go online and see how much a typical gi costs, and they'll be hovering, the cheapest one will probably hover around 100 bucks, average 250 anyway. So for them to make 20 bucks on top is not that unreasonable, in my opinion. So why not just support your gym, right? But if they require it for no apparent reason, or they require you to buy like 2 or 3 or whatever, then yeah, it's a bit sus. So just be mindful of that. So just avoid the typical McDojo stuff. If you see a lot of like, if you see a lot of people looking like a cult, everybody wearing the same thing, uh, that might simply just be it's a school uniform. That's fine. You make it look good. I have no problems with that. But if they make you purchase more than what you need, then that is something you have to be careful of because God knows what else they're going to be charging you. It's getting windy, so I'll cut this off right now. I hope that was useful. And I hope you have a great day. It's a Thursday today. So I hope that you have a great second half of 2025. All right, so I'm glad.